Alone in ICU, my daughter's devastating truth exposed when her husband partied on a yacht. The sterile scent of antiseptic hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. In room 314 of the ICU, where the machines beeped like a metronome counting down life, Sarah lay motionless, with tubes snaking from her body into a chaotic orchestra of machines. Her skin, once radiant, now appeared ghostly pale, framed by a fraying hospital gown. But the most shocking thing didn't lie just in her condition. It was the unexpected connection to her husband, Jake, whose wild party on a yacht was plastered across every tabloid. How could a man still dance on the sun-soaked deck while his wife battled for breath? The whispers of friends and relatives filled the waiting room, their hushed tones carrying a weight of disbelief. "Did you hear? He was celebrating as she lay here helpless." Murmurs broke into frantic speculations. The truth began to twist like vines around the heart. Was she just a footnote in his rising stardom? The reporters outside shoved their cameras towards composure cracks, desperate to feed on the drama. As night fell, shadows loomed larger. Every flicker of the overhead fluorescent light seemed to pulse with secrets and fears. Just beyond the ICU doors, laughter erupted, a stark contrast against the cold struggle within. It was the sound of reckless celebration. How could he? Jake, charming to a fault, once devoted, now a specter haunting Sarah's dreams. Suddenly, the intense beeping of the heart monitor jolted the room. Nurses rushed in, faces drawn tight with urgency, pushing aside the tangled emotions of the gathering storm outside. What did they find? Was it as simple as a hiccup in her recovery, or something darker lurking beneath? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Outside, the party raged on, fireworks illuminating the sky, while inside, silence possessed the void where hope once thrived. Sarah's eyes fluttered open, and in that split second, she seemed aware of everything: the betrayal, the lies, the party as a grotesque mockery of her suffering. What truth was buried in her heart, waiting to be unleashed? The tension in the room tightened, strands of fate ready to snap. What surveillance had caught Jake in the act? What could possibly tear this apart? Thoughts spiraled in the darkness. As her eyes met the blinking machines around her, a question loomed: would Sarah's story be buried alongside her husband's revelry, or would the truth explode into a spectacle that changed them both forever? The alarms blared louder, the beeping echoing off sterile walls as the nurses rushed in, their frantic movements a blur in Sarah's foggy mind. Shadows danced on her vision, forming a chaotic symphony of dread and anticipation. What were they seeing? Her heart raced, both from fear and the remnants of life coursing through her weakened body. With every fiber of her being, she wanted to scream, to reach out for the truth entombed beneath the veil of betrayal. Get Dr. Roberts. She needs more oxygen. A nurse's voice sliced through the tension, sharp and commanding. Another voice followed, muffled but urgent. Was it someone calling for help? Was it Jake? The thought made her chest tighten even more. Just as suddenly, the room flooded with tension. Machines beeped furiously, monitoring her struggle to breathe, a harrowing countdown. Sarah struggled to process the world around her, the sharp sting of reality mixing with flashes of betrayal. Jake, the man she gave her heart to, was out there, his laughter mingling with the night's celebration as if she were an afterthought, a mere collateral casualty on his rise to fame. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah forced her eyelids open, fighting through the haze of pain. She had to understand how much Jake knew, how deep the lies ran. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a shattering of everything they built together. The beeping noises around her seemed to rise and fall like waves, retelling her story in grotesque rhythm, the door swung open with a force that echoed through the hollow space. Dr. Roberts entered, flanked by nurses and technicians, her expression resolute yet shadowed with a sense of urgency. Seeing Sarah awake, even in her fragile state, brought a flicker of hope to the doctor's face, but it was quickly replaced by concern. "Sarah," Dr. Roberts began, her voice steady yet comforting, "you're awake. We're going to take care of you. Can you hear me?" In that moment, the chaotic world outside faded into nothingness. The musical laughter, the bursts of fireworks, the entire extravaganza felt like a fading dream, a buzzing echo as Sarah focused on the doctor. She wanted to scream, to ask about Jake, to lay it all bare, but her voice was caught in her throat, then it hit her. A revelation sparked like lightning in her mind. The cameras, the incriminating footage. She had glimpsed glimpses of urgency before her world went dark, slipping through the crevices of her memory. They had caught Jake at a party, lost in his revelry while she fought for life. What the hell was he hiding? With a forceful breath, she summoned all she could. "Jake, where's Jake?" She croaked, her voice a mere whisper laced with desperation. Dr. Roberts exchanged glances with the nurses and then stepped closer, her expression painted with empathy. He's outside, Sarah. He's been at a gathering. They said they were waiting for news. I'll get him for you." As the doctor dashed off, the door swung closed behind her. The beeping machines filled the void, yet Sarah's heart raced faster. Was this her moment? The chance to confront him, to unravel the web of deceit before her very eyes. The tension in the room crackled with uncertainty. Time felt like an elastic band, stretching, pulling her towards an impending confrontation. What awaited when Jake would step through that door? Would he confess? Would it be a moment of reckoning, or simply a final act in the tragedy unfolding before her? Just as silence fell, a familiar voice broke through the emergency buzz, distant yet unmistakable laughter, cruel and carefree. Another wave of anger surged within her. The door creaked open. Would the truth spill over, or would she find herself drowning in despair once again? "Jake," she whispered, her heart pounding as the weight of her world hinged on what happened next. The door swung wide, revealing Jake standing there, silhouetted against the chaotic light of the hallway. He looked different, disheveled, perhaps from the desperate hours spent outside, anxiety etched into his handsome features. But there was a gleam in his eyes. Was it relief? Or something darker, something that prickled at Sarah's skin like an electric shock? He stepped inside as the door clicked shut behind him, sealing them in this small bubble of tension. The moment felt frozen in time, an unsaid acknowledgement of their shared past hanging heavy in the air. He opened his mouth, his words tinged with uncertainty. "Sarah." Her heart raced. This was at the moment of exposure. Would he make it right? Why did you leave me?" She croaked, each syllable an arduous battle against the pain that wages war within her. The tears threatened to spill, but she held them at bay. Weakness was not an option. Jake took a step closer, his eyes softening. "I didn't leave you, I swear. It wasn't my fault." "How could it not be your fault?" The accusation spilled from her like venom, fueled by the images still flickering in her mind, the camera flashes, the laughter. "You were out there, being celebrated while I fought for my life. I was at a party. Just a stupid party." He was imploring now, hands gesturing helplessly. "I thought I could have fun for a bit. You were safe. I didn't expect." She couldn't listen to his excuses, each one a dagger driving further into her already fractured heart. "Safe. Safe. I was lying in that hospital bed, Jake. Did you even hear me when I called?" Her voice trembled with pent-up fury and betrayal, the air grew thick between them, pulsing with unconfessed truths. If only she could unravel the secrets he'd tightly woven around his actions. A flicker of guilt crossed his face, but it was gone in an instant, replaced with steely resolve. "Sarah, I didn't come here to fight. I came to what?" She interrupted, the bitterness cutting through the air like glass. To apologize? To say you care? Because your actions scream otherwise. You chose them over me. Her words hung, triggering memories of their shared plans, of the dreams they built. She glimpsed flashes of the life they envisioned together, a silken tapestry now frayed and torn. I can explain. Explain what? She shot back, anger coiling tightly around her. Your genius idea of being the life of the party? Do you really think any of this matters anymore? I'm here, Jake. I'm fighting for my life while you're partying. Why should I give you a chance? Silence engulfed them, the beeping of the monitors a harsh reminder of the ticking clock. Jake's expression morphed into desperation, his fingers shaking as he struggled to find the words. Sarah could see him wrestling with his guilt, a flicker of sincerity flashing through the facade of bravado. I messed up, okay? I messed up, but I love you. I would never intentionally hurt you. She took a deep breath, the weight of his confession pressing down like a weight, respite mixed with disbelief swirling within her. Could she believe him? Did love mean redemption? Love? She choked on the word, her heart betraying her. Love wouldn't abandon me for a single night of fun. As the reality settled in her chest, Sarah's thoughts raced. She needed answers, not excuses, to understand how deep the betrayal sank. That was her only hope of finding peace, or at least a semblance of it. Just tell me everything, Jake, she pleaded, suddenly weary. I need the truth. No more lies. He hesitated, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. But then his shoulders slumped as if accepting the inevitable. Okay, he whispered reluctantly. But you might not like what I have to say. Her breath hitched, staring deep into his frightened eyes, a storm swirling around them. The truth hung heavy in the air, a fragile glass waiting to shatter. Little did she know how deeply it was tied to a bigger game at play, one that would change everything. Tell me, she urged, heart racing, hands trembling. Jake opened his mouth, the tension poised to snap like a taut wire. But before he could speak, the door burst open once more, this time revealing Dr. Roberts, her expression grave, eyes filled with urgency. Sarah, we have a problem. The dread in the doctor's voice curled into knots in her stomach. What more could possibly go wrong? As the shadows closed in, Sarah wondered if the truth would ultimately set her free or shatter her world even further. The darkness loomed, and just when she thought she was ready for the truth, everything spiraled into chaos once again. Dr. Roberts stood in the threshold, her presence commanding and urgent. A cold grip of fear clutched at Sarah's heart. The plastics the doctor wore blended too seamlessly with the sterile environment, her voice echoing with authority. Sarah's skin prickled with foreboding. What kind of problem? Her throat felt tight, each word a challenge to remain composed. She stole a glance at Jake, searching his face for reassurance, but found only shock mirrored back. Sarah, Dr. Roberts continued, stepping further into the room, her gaze shifting between the two of them. Your lab results, they've come back. There's a complication with your treatment. The world around them faded, the incessant beeping of the machines grew louder, smashing through the fragile facade of tension that wrapped around them. Suddenly, the flickering fluorescent lights overhead took on a sinister hum. What do you mean? Sarah's voice quivered. What kind of complication? Dr. Roberts hesitated, her eyes darting to Jake. The unspoken words hung thick in the air, pausing Sarah's heart in its leap. Your body is not responding to the medication. We need to change your treatment plan immediately. Her tone shifted to one of gentle urgency. It's critical. I need you to stay focused and trust me. Change the treatment. But I thought. Sarah's grip on the blankets tightened. Doubt seeped into her resolve. Just tell me I'm not dying. Let us not jump to conclusions. Dr. Roberts spoke slowly, measuring each word. But we need to act fast. I need your consent to proceed with a more aggressive therapy. You might experience side effects. I don't care. Just do it. The words erupted from Sarah, raw and desperate. Shame washed over her at the outburst, but she didn't care. There was no room for fear now, she needed to fight. Jake stepped forward, concern clouding his expression. What does this mean, Doc? His voice shook imperceptibly. How serious are we talking? Dr. Roberts squared her shoulders, delivering the news like a seasoned soldier. Without the new treatment, your chances for recovery are slim. I need to be clear, this could mean a more painful road ahead, and it may bring unforeseen risks. The air in the room turned thick, wrapping around each of them like a suffocating blanket. Sarah's body felt leaden, the weight of her impending decision loomed. Part of her wanted to argue, to challenge the doctor's authority, but another part screamed at her for control. She couldn't buckle now. Do it, she said, her voice a whisper echoing with steel resolve. Just do it. Dr. Roberts nodded, her expression a mix of relief and sympathy. Okay. I'll prepare the team. We're moving fast. As the doctor stepped out, Sarah turned to Jake, whose face was etched with panic. You okay? He asked, the worry lines deepening. Am I okay? She scoffed, her breath hitching as both fear and anger collided within her. You're the one who hasn't figured out how to make this right, Jake. Sarah, just don't. She interrupted, her heart racing. The electric energy crackled between them, igniting the tension in the air. You need to tell me why you chose a party over me. They're not wearing the hospital gowns while I'm laid out like a helpless doll. Please, just listen. He stepped closer, hands raised as if to calm a storm. You don't understand what has been going on. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? From what? The truth? You should have been here. But before Jake could respond, a distant commotion echoed through the corridor outside. Footsteps, voices urgent, frantic. It drew Sarah's attention away from the battle waging between them. Do you hear that? She whispered, the chill creeping back up her spine. Jake nodded, visibly shaken. Something's happening out there. Tension mounted as the sounds grew louder, chaos spilling into the sterile white walls of the unit. Just then, the nurse flung the door open, panic painted across her face. There's been an incident. We need everyone to evacuate the ICU. Panic engulfed the room like a dark cloud closing in. What do you mean evacuate? Sarah's voice shook. What's going on? We don't have time. The nurse's urgency showed no room for questions. Please, now. Everything inside Sarah screamed to stay, to know the truth, to confront the darkness surrounding her life. But the looming threat outside was no mere figment of imagination, it was real. Jake! She cried, gripping his arm. I need you to stay with me through this. Don't let go. His eyes locked on hers, fear graduating into determination. I want. But whatever happens next, just stay. We'll face it together. But as they moved toward the door, Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing feeling something far bigger was lurking out there waiting to unravel both their realities once more. They stepped into uncertainty, the clamor drowning out the last whispers of their confrontation. What awaited them on the other side? The truth she thought she wanted, or an even darker deception? And just like that, with every step, the mystery deepened. The chaos surged like a storm as Sarah and Jake rushed through the doorway into the hall. The commotion seemed to swallow them whole, staff shouting orders, patients being wheeled away at a frantic pace. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting frantic shadows that danced across the white tiles beneath their feet. Where is everyone going? Sarah shouted to the nurse, who was directing a group of her colleagues near the nurse's station. Her heart pounded, each beat screaming of the urgency around her. There's been a security breach. We need to get the patients to safety. The nurse's voice barely cut through the din, her expression a fierce mask of focus. But I can't. Sarah protested, but Jake's grip tightened on her arm, pulling her away from the nurse before she could finish. "We have to move, Sarah. Just trust me," Jake urged, his eyes darting with worry. They turned a corner, and Sarah felt an oddly public yet secluded sense of dread as the buzz of panic heightened, swirling around them like a nasty wind. They were sprinting now, heading toward the exit where the flow of people indicated they were evacuating. As they approached the large glass doors, Jake glanced back, his face pale. "What the hell is going on? I wish I knew," Sarah exclaimed, the anxiety clawing at her insides. Just then, a loud crash erupted behind them. Something heavy had toppled over, and a furious shout echoed into the corridor. Sarah instinctively turned, and what she saw made her freeze. A group of security guards stormed past, their faces tight with determination. But trailing behind them was a shadow, a figure that made Sarah's blood run cold. He was tall and clad in black, his movements fluid yet threatening. There was something menacing in his gaze as he scanned the hustle and bustle of distressed staff and patients alike. "Jake," she whispered, pulling on his arm urgently. "We need to get out of here now." The urgency in Sarah's voice jolted him back to the moment. "Right, let us go." They pushed through the glass doors, and the bright sunlight hit them like a jolt of ice water. The open space felt liberating yet exposed. Outside, they joined a crowd of people gathering on the front lawn of the hospital. Paramedics were at the ready, and emergency vehicles lined the street, sirens screaming like banshees. The air carried the heavy scent of fear and confusion. Sarah's stomach churned. "Where do we go?" "What if?" Jake began, but Sarah took a hard look around, trying to process the scene. Her breath came in quick gasps. "We're safe here for now, let us just stay put." Several feet away, the group waiting for news began murmuring about the situation. Words like active shooter and gunshots punctured the air, each mention sending waves of terror cascading through Sarah's chest. The chaos inside was no longer just an internal battle for survival, it had become a fight against an external threat. "What if we go back?" Jake suggested, his voice wavering. "Are you out of your mind?" She hissed. "Whatever's happening in there, it can't be good. We need to stay away." In the corner of her eye, Sarah noticed a young nurse sitting on the grass, her hands trembling as she clutched her cell phone. "I thought I heard shots," the nurse murmured, and Sarah felt ice grip her heart again. But as fear gripped the crowd, her mind wrestled with thoughts about her treatment, the procedures to come, the urgency of her health. Jake reached for her, his hand warm against her cool skin, grounding her. Suddenly, a loud boom burst through the air, louder than the sirens. Everyone froze. A murmur of shock rippled through the crowd, and Sarah's instincts kicked in. Something was off, confusion turned to dread. "Stay here," Jake commanded, turning back toward the hospital entrance. The look in his eyes reflected a blinding fear she couldn't ignore. "Where are you going?" she called after him. "Jake, wait." But he was already moving, carving a path through the crowd of panicked individuals. He stopped just a few feet away, glancing back one more time with a mix of determination and desperation. Then everything shifted. The hospital doors burst open, and the figure in black emerged, drawing the attention of everyone outside. Faces turned pale as realization struck. "Run!" Sarah shouted, but the command was swallowed in the swell of panic rising among them. As they huddled together, her heart raced with dread, knowing one thing, the truth she so desperately sought was now inextricably linked to a horror unfolding before her very eyes. But what was happening next? Would the chaos within the hospital close in on them, or would they find a new path to safety? With every heartbeat, the tension mounted, and Sarah felt sure of one thing: nothing would be the same from this moment forward. The air crackled with fear as the figure in black stepped out into the daylight, his silhouette a stark contrast to the chaotic scene surrounding the hospital. People gasped, some stumbling backward, their eyes wide with terror. Sarah felt her throat tighten as if the very air had thickened into something suffocating. "Jake, please!" she called out, but she was drowned out by the cacophony of panic. She could see Jake still standing, a foot away from the crowd, locked in a stare with that ominous figure. "Get back!" one of the security guards yelled, raising his weapon, but the figure wasn't moving. Instead, he surveyed the onlookers with a cold detachment as if they were nothing more than shadows in his realm. His gaze landed on Sarah, and a chill ran down her spine. "Jake!" Sarah shouted again, pulling at his shirt, desperate to drag him away. But he was frozen, caught in a web of uncertainty and raw fear. "Jake, we need to go. Now." She gripped his arm tighter, her heart hammering in her chest. She could see other people breaking away from the group, some fleeing toward the parking lot, others looking around for anything that could serve as shelter. Then, without warning, the figure moved. It was a flash, almost graceful, bringing with it a tide of dread that washed over the crowd. He rushed toward the nearest ambulance, disappearing behind it for a brief moment, and people screamed, panic rising like a tidal wave. "Follow me!" a paramedic shouted, ushering a group toward the side of the building. The straggling crowd began to rush in that direction, their feet pounding the ground in frantic rhythm. But Sarah hesitated, her instincts screaming to stay with Jake. "I want to leave you," she said fervently, staring up at him, her voice barely rising above the tumult. "Sarah, we have to move. There's no time." Jake's voice was strained, his eyes darting back toward the ambulance as if sensing that danger was close behind. "I want to go without you." Sarah felt tears prickle at the corners of her eyes, but Jake's gaze hardened. "Get to safety. I'll find you," he yelled, forcing himself from her grip and sprinting toward the ambulance. "Jake!" she cried, but he was lost in the sea of bodies within seconds. Desperation clawed at her, urging her feet to follow, but dread rooted her in place. The crowd surged around her, the noise escalating to a deafening roar. Someone bumped into her fiercely, nearly knocking her down, and panic erupted anew as people scrambled to escape the chaos. "Quick! Inside the building!" a security guard shouted, beckoning them toward the entrance. Sarah hesitated, looking back once more in search of Jake, praying for a glimpse of him. Nothing. Just the mass of people frantically running, fear etched into their faces. Then she remembered the young nurse, still trembling on the grass. "Please!" Sarah called, moving toward her. "We need to go." The nurse looked up, her face pale, eyes brimming with tears. I can't. What if now? We can't stay here." Sarah grabbed her hand, pulling her to her feet. "Let us go." They both turned and made for the entrance, moving quickly against the tide of panic, hearts beating like drums. But as they reached the door, another loud explosion echoed through the air, followed by a heavy thud that shook the ground beneath them. The door slammed shut behind them, a metallic clang cutting them off from the chaos outside. They were inside, but at what cost? The fluorescent lights hummed, illuminating a lobby that still seemed to pulse with the echoes of panic. Then the unmistakable sound of footsteps approached. Shadows lengthened through the hallway toward them, and Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. Whispers of dread hung in the air, and she could feel the weight of uncertainty enveloping her like a fog. What would they face in the darkness of that hospital now? And was Jake safe, or had he barreled into greater danger? The walls felt like they were closing in as Sarah turned to the nurse beside her, knowing what came next might unravel everything they thought they understood about this nightmare. "Let us find out what's really happening," she said, determination sparking in her chest despite the looming fear. With the silence pressing in around them, she wondered how much farther they would plunge into the depths of this horror. And as she took a step forward, she could only hope the truth wouldn't shatter them. The hallway stretched before them, a dim-lit corridor that felt more like a tunnel leading into the abyss. Sarah felt the weight of her decision to enter this unsettling place leaning heavier on her chest. The nurse beside her, still shaky and uncertain, glanced nervously at the flickering lights overhead. Do you think he'll get back?" The nurse faltered, her voice barely a whisper. "We can't think about that now," Sarah snapped, trying to mask her own rising panic. She needed to move. Each thud of her heart reminded her that answers lay ahead, and the longer they delayed, the harder it could become. With a deep breath, Sarah led the way down the corridor, her footsteps echoing against the stark white walls. The silence felt suffocating, each moment weighted with dread. A sense that they were being watched prickled the back of her neck. She turned quickly, half expecting to see the figure in black, but there was only the stillness, thick and oppressive. "Do you recognize these halls?" Sarah asked the nurse, desperate for any distraction from the fear piling up within her. "I used to work here before," the nurse's voice broke, and Sarah sensed the memories flooding back, memories perhaps too painful to revisit now. "But we need to focus," Sarah urged gently, pushing the panic down to bring clarity above the chaos. "What's the best way to find help?" They moved past the reception area, now chaos itself, tables turned, papers scattered like fallen leaves. In the distance, muffled cries rippled through the air, echoing through the crooked hallways. Each step felt like they were traipsing deeper into a dying world where hope was nothing but a flickering candle. Suddenly, a shadow fell across them, and both women froze. A figure stood at the other end of the corridor, a silhouette framed by flickering fluorescent lights. "Help!" Sarah yelled, her voice rising in fear and desperation. The figure stepped forward, revealing a scruffy man with wild eyes, clutching a baseball bat like it was a lifeline. "Get away from here!" he barked, his voice raw and desperate. "This place is lost. Wait. Please." Sarah felt panic leap in her throat. "We need to find someone who can help." "Have you seen? I've seen too much." He interrupted harshly. "You don't understand. It's not safe. They're coming." His wild eyes scanned the space behind them, paranoia swirling like a storm in his expression. The nurse was shaking beside Sarah, her breaths quickening. "Who? What's coming?" Sarah pressed, desperation clawing at her. But the man stepped back, as if the very space they occupied held a threat too large to discuss, too monstrous to name. "I can't explain. Just run." He turned abruptly and disappeared into a side corridor, leaving them in stunned silence. Sarah's heart pounded with confusion. Should they follow him or turn back? What did he mean? The nurse whispered, fear edging her voice. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, chills creeping down her spine. The sound of distant screams echoed again, sharper this time, forcing a sense of urgency to spill into her veins. "We can't stay here. We have to find an exit," Sarah urged, her voice steeled by a mix of fear and determination. They moved forward, slowly creeping toward the source of the screams. As they turned the corner, they stumbled upon a room ajar, an eerie darkness pouring from inside. With a racing heart, Sarah nudged the door open wider. The sight struck her like a punch to the gut, a group of people huddled together, wide-eyed and trembling. "Get out!" a woman shrieked, pointing back the way they had come. "He's here." "Who?" Sarah's voice was high and sharp with panic. But then they heard a low, rumbling laugh echoing from the dim hallway beyond, suffocating their resolve. A chill settled in the air as Sarah's fear morphed into wild, raw terror. What horrors lurked beyond that darkness? Time was slipping away. They had to decide, fight or flee. As the laughter grew louder, she gripped the nurse's hand tightly, her heart racing. The nightmare wasn't just starting, it was unfolding right before them. What would they discover next? Fear pulsed through her as they prepared to confront the shadows ahead. The room loomed before them, an island of uncertainty in a sea of panic. Sarah's grip on the nurse tightened, her resolve quivering under the weight of dread. The woman beside her was breathless, eyes darting around wildly, mirroring Sarah's own racing heart. "Maybe we should just go back," the nurse murmured, her voice trembling, every word laced with fear. "Back to what?" Sarah snapped, shaking her head. This is the only chance we have. The laughter echoed again, deeper now, wrapping around them like a cold hand clutching their throats. With each peal, Sarah felt a chill creep into her bones. It wasn't just a sound, it felt like a warning, a reminder of the sinister presence lurking just out of sight. She pushed down the rising nausea, drawing strength from her urgency. As they stepped deeper into the room, the faces of the huddled group became clearer. Each person was a portrait of shattered hope, their shared terror a heavy force in the air. A man with wild hair caught her gaze, his eyes darkened with unshed tears. "You shouldn't have come here," he rasped, voice hoarse from panic. Before Sarah could respond, another scream erupted from the hallway, piercing their collective silence. "No!" Another woman cried, crouching low, as if hiding from something too horrific to comprehend. "We're all dead if we stay here." "Is it him?" Sarah pressed, though she remained unsure whom they were speaking about. They'd spoken of someone, something that put the fear into their souls. "Not just him," the man said suddenly, a tremor in his voice. "There are others, things that lurk in the shadows. He's just the herald of something worse." With that claim hanging heavy in the air, Sarah waved her hand toward the jagged shadows outside the room. "We need to find a way out. We can't let that thing get us. We can't stay here." But the group remained paralyzed, stuck in their swirling mists of despair. "It's too late for us," whispered a woman clinging to a shaking child. "You should go while you still can." "No," Sarah said, desperation spilling into her voice. "We can't split up. If we escape, we can help you." "Help?" The man's laugh was bitter, filled with pain. "You think you can help us? It's too late. None can leave." Determination surged anew within Sarah. "I refuse to accept that." She gritted her teeth, stepping closer to the group, her heart pounding fiercely against her ribs. "We won't let this place take us. We fight together or not at all." Suddenly, the laughter faded into a deep, sinister rumble, vibrating through the walls, almost as if the building itself was alive. Shadows elongated and twisted under the feeble light, creeping toward them like hungry beasts. The air grew thicker, charged with an electric fear that made the hair on the back of Sarah's neck stand on end. "Now!" she yelled, pivoting toward the door, adrenaline pushing her forward. "Follow me. We're getting out of here, now." But as they raced toward the exit, a figure emerged from the blackness, eyes like voids, twisting the air around him with an almost palpable darkness. "Where do you think you're going?" His voice slithered through the room, chilling them to the bone. Sarah's heart dropped, a cold wave of horror crashing over her as the truth hit her. They were trapped. Her instincts screamed to flee, but which way? She stumbled back, heart hammering, fear coursing through her veins. The flickering lights around them dimmed further, plunging the room into near darkness, save for the emerald glint of something sharp in the man's hand. The group gasped collectively, a single breath echoing their shared realization this was no ordinary nightmare. With nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, Sarah felt the temperature drop. Time stretched painfully as the figure advanced, slicing through the encroaching darkness. Was there still a chance to escape? The shadows loomed larger with every heartbeat. As fear threatened to consume her, Sarah knew one thing for certain: this was the moment that would change everything. What awaited them in the hallway beyond? And could they survive the encounter that loomed so dangerously close? The figure shifted forward, a grotesque smile revealing teeth that seemed to shimmer with malice. "Did you think you could just waltz in here and leave?" he taunted, voice curling around them like smoke. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, each heartbeat pulsing with terror. Turning to look back at the group, her urgency hardened into stark resolve. "We have to try," she shouted over the mounting dread, though she barely believed it herself. Panic tore at her insides, but she couldn't let it show, not now. The man laughed again, a sound scraping against her nerves. "You think trying will save you? You've only awakened the fear we're fighting to keep at bay." As the shadows pressed closer, the air thick with an oppressive darkness, Sarah glanced at the nurse beside her. "You have to trust me. We can't let him win." Her determination sparked something in the nurse, who nodded, shivering but resolute. "Come on," Sarah urged, adrenaline clawing at her chest. "There has to be a way out. This isn't the end." Still, fear anchored them in place. People trembled, tears streamed down terrified faces. "Look around." The man growled, gesturing wildly. "You think there's salvation here? You're already part of it." He lunged, and without thinking, Sarah grabbed the nurse's hand, yanking her toward the door. With the noise of their echoing footsteps, her pulse strummed a frantic rhythm. "Run! Move!" They barreled through the doorway, arms brushing against cold, crumbling walls as dread hung over them like a shroud. The hallway stretched, dim and foreboding, shadows creeping along the edges, twisting grotesquely as they fled. The screams from the huddled group behind them faded, swallowed by the sinister laughter that seemed to resonate through the very veins of the building. But footsteps followed behind, darkly echoing in pursuit, and a pure instinct to survive lit a fire in Sarah's chest. Each turn they took grew more chaotic, the corridor narrowing into a claustrophobic tunnel. "Where do we go?" The nurse gasped, eyes wild with panic. The lights flickered overhead, casting terrifying shapes along the jagged, peeling walls. "Just keep moving," Sarah shouted, feeling the weight of every breath in her lungs. They stumbled into a cement door that loomed ahead, rusted and ominous. Her hands fumbled with the handle, heart racing against the ticking clock of their possible extinction. Then, the laughter returned, heavier than before, draping over them like a dark fog. With every second, it gripped Sarah tighter, tearing at the fragile seams of her sanity. "Help us!" A voice called from behind, a woman's voice, a shred of hope twisting despair into something almost tangible. But as Sarah hesitated, doubt clawed at her resolve. "They're trying to trap us. Don't listen!" The nurse yelled, pulling Sarah back just as the door creaked ominously. With a frantic shudder, Sarah flung herself against the door with all her weight. The metal groaned in protest, yet it swung open with a chilling ease. Beyond lay a dimly lit staircase, descending into an abyss shrouded in darkness that moment, reality spiraled, blurring between hope and doom. But the choice was made. They plunged into the unknown, heavy shadows cascading behind them, nearly tangible in their threat, yet as they descended, whispers flickered through the air hissing truths that echoed fragments of their fear. Realizations came like jagged edges biting, sharp. What if this isn't just a nightmare? Sarah asked breathlessly, hoping her voice could pierce through the encroaching horror. What if the ground beneath them shook, bottomless terror rising? The laughter grew once more, swelling into a terrifying crescendo. And just before the looming darkness swallowed them entirely, a memory sparked to life, unbidden and aching, a chilling realization. Someone had to have brought them here. As the weight of that idea loomed in her heart, nails of terror raked against her. What awaited them below, and would they find the truth before it was too late? The cold darkness wrapped around Sarah and the nurse like a heavy blanket as they descended into the stairwell, each step echoing off the concrete walls with a haunting finality. The flickering lights overhead painted twisted shadows that danced around them, whispering secrets of the horrors that lay below. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The thought of being trapped in that hallway, the man with wild laughter just a breath away, drove her forward. Whatever fate awaited them below felt better than the specter they had barely escaped. The nurse stumbled slightly, her grip tightening on the railing as they continued descending. "Do you think there's a way out?" she gasped, panic rising once more within her. "I don't know, but we have to try," Sarah replied, her heart pounding. The weight of uncertainty felt crushing, yet within it, there was a flicker of hope. They couldn't stop until they found a way out or until they confronted whatever lay at the bottom. The staircase spiraled down into an oppressive gloom that seemed to whisper warnings. Just when Sarah thought the void might swallow them whole, they reached the bottom with a thud that reverberated through the chilly concrete. The air down here was stale, filled with the echoes of their earlier terror. As they stepped into the room, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Dim light streamed in through a grimy window, illuminating a space filled with scattered chairs, discarded medical supplies, and faint traces of past lives. Here, too, lingered the remnants of fear. "Is this?" the nurse began, horror creeping in her voice. Sarah had no answers. Instinctively, she moved toward the far wall, her gaze settling on a door slightly ajar, shadows writhing beyond it. "Come on." Sarah pulled the nurse forward, moving toward the door as if propelled by a force greater than fear itself. The closer they got, the thicker the air became, heavy with tension that seemed to pulse like a living thing. As she pushed it open, the hinges groaned in protest, and a wave of darkness spilled out, wrapping around them like a serpent ready to strike. "We need to be careful," Sarah whispered, her eyes scanning for any signs of life or any signs of danger. The room beyond was another world entirely, a makeshift command center filled with surveillance screens, buzzing with static and fragmented images. Some displayed the chaos in the hospital, while others illuminated the empty hallways. But the most chilling part was the series of footage from the party. Jake, carefree and laughing, oblivious to the storm brewing at the hospital. Sarah's heart sank like a stone. It was as if his betrayal was laid bare before her, displayed in stark contrast to her desperate struggle. The anger surged again, but this time there was no room for rage, just a hollow ache of heartbreak. "Look!" the nurse exclaimed, pointing to a monitor displaying a live feed. Sarah leaned in closer. On screen, she saw Jake moving restlessly through the hospital corridor, combing past chaos, his eyes searching for her. She felt a rush raw worry entwined with longing. Could he still be there for her? "He's coming," the nurse said, excitement sparking hope in her tone. "We have to get his attention." They raced toward a window, but before they could reach it, the odd laughter echoed again, louder, bouncing around the small space. Shadows flickered in the corners of the room, forming into shapes she couldn't quite comprehend. "What is happening?" Sarah yelled, her voice frantic. "I don't know," the nurse cried, glancing back, fear etched into her features. "We need to leave." But before they could turn back, the man from before appeared suddenly, blocking their exit, eyes aglow with malice. "You thought you could escape the darkness?" His laughter rolled over them like thunder, fear ignited Sarah's instincts. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted defiantly, stepping forward as courage surged through her, wrapping her in a fierce resolve. "You're swimming in waters too deep to navigate," the figure sneered. "Are you sure you want to play with the shadows?" Trembling with fear, Sarah felt the nurse's hand grasp her own like a lifeline. "We're not here to play," she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "We're here to fight back. You don't own us." In that moment, something shifted within Sarah, a flicker of strength igniting. "Your fear gives us power, but we refuse to be trapped in your illusion," she proclaimed, standing taller, grounding herself against the gravity of despair. And as if her words ignited a fire, the figure recoiled slightly, the darkness dimming in response to her defiance. The shadows that clung to him seemed less potent, wavering. "Foolish girl," he hissed, yet the threat behind his words felt uncertain now. In a moment of clarity, Sarah glanced at the monitors behind her. "Show us the way out," she yelled, heart pounding with a new purpose. "We will not let your darkness prevail." The nurse echoed her strength, raising her chin. "You're weak, the truth is stronger." Together, they stepped farther into the room, refusing to let fear dictate their fates. Just as the figure advanced, the screens behind them flared wildly, distorting into flashes of static and light, the room swirling as visions of their earlier pain began to fade. "Think you can run?" he hissed, but now all Sarah felt was resolve. They weren't escaping, they were rising. They dashed towards the door, leaping into a world that felt less heavy, filled with the light of their defiance. The laughter faded behind them, and the path before them seemed to open, revealing the remnants of hope. "Sarah!" a voice called from ahead, clear and familiar. Jake appeared in the distance, uncertainty filling his expression but his eyes sparkling with something more yearning, determination. "Come on!" she shouted, her heart swelling as she rushed toward him. This was their moment to break free, to emerge not just from the hospital and the darkness that surrounded it, but into something brighter together, facing the truth as one. Reaching Jake, they fell into each other's arms, hearts racing. "I was so scared," he murmured, breathlessly clutching her. "You're here, and that's what matters," Sarah replied, her voice strong yet filled with tenderness. They would face the chaos together. As they stepped forward into the unknown, reclaiming their strength, it was clear that no darkness would overshadow their light. They would fight not only for survival but for the truth that laid the foundation of everything they had built together. And standing hand in hand, ready to face everything that lay ahead, Sarah knew that they were stronger than any chaos that dared to confront them. Their journey was far from over, but with renewed hope, they were ready to embrace the truth of their love, a truth that would shine ever brighter in the darkest of times. Don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now for more incredible stories that will take you to the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and be part of our family. We want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just went down. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes a real difference.